All right, welcome, bienvenido a the Biden for Broadway Town Hall, the Latinx Town Hall. I'm excited. We are here tonight. We're going to talk about all the amazing policies that a Biden-Harris administration will promise for the Latinx community, and talk about issues that we faced during this past very long, almost 4 years. So first, I want to go through the entire panel. And guys, look, I believe that we're in a moment right now of like just such darkness and stuff, and I want you guys to like brag about yourselves. Like I want Latinos to brag about themselves, talk about our accomplishments, what we're doing, what we do for this country. So when I say your name, just tell me who you are, what country you originate from, or what's your nationality, and tell me some of your highlights. Like tell me what you've done, how you've nailed it. I want to know, and like just I want to have this to be a wonderful evening of empowerment. So let's start off with Stephanie Beatrice.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Beatrice. My pronouns are she and her. You probably know me from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where I play Detective Rosa Diaz. But I've also done quite a bit of voiceover. I've done some films. I'm going to be playing Carla in The Heights, which is coming out next year. Thanks. And I'm really excited to be here to talk about some of this stuff because it's stuff that's really important to millions of people in the United States. So yay.
And Stephanie, where's your nationality from?
Oh, my father's Colombian. My mom is Bolivian. And I was born in Argentina. I came to the United States when I was 2. I got my American citizenship when I was 18.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Ayodele Cassell.
Hi, y'all.
Hi.
Hi. I am a native New Yorker. I was born in the Bronx, but my father's Black. My mom's from Puerto Rico. But I actually had the nice, unique experience of growing up in Puerto Rico for the formative years, when I was 9 to 15. So I understand what it's like to live in the concrete jungle, and also what it was like to run around with chickens and, and live that life, I'm a tap dancer. I'm a choreographer. I'm an actor. I love Latin music. I actually work a lot with Latin musicians, most recently with Arturo O'Farrell. We did a show at the Joyce Theater last fall. I think my work has always been an extension of my identity and my culture and an expression of that. And that's what I'm pretty committed to.
Amazing. I think it's funny that all of our Latin childhoods somehow involved running around with chickens at some point. Oh. I know there are chickens in my childhood too.
That's a real thing. I mean, I wouldn't trade it.
I actually had a little pet rooster I bought at the flea market. So long story about that one. Luis.
Eric.
Oh, sorry. No, please go ahead.
I'm like chickens. I'm like, one time my grandmother. No, I was going to say.
Go for it.
No, I had a chicken. I had a pet chicken. Her name was Pollina, and I loved that chicken. And I found out. And let me say something. Years later, I found out that the chicken disappeared, and I found out that my grandmother.
Wait, my rooster. I asked my parents. I go, whatever happened to that rooster I had? She goes, oh, he went to go live at your Dio's house. And I go, but where is he now? He goes, remember that Coco Bon we had? I go, oh my God, we ate the rooster?
It's terrible.
Gone. I'm turning so red because of the dead rooster.
As you were, right?
Luis Salgado.
Hola, Luis Salgado. I have to tell you that I'm not even going to start with me. I'm going to start with chickens, because I am in Puerto Rico right now, and my son is having the experience, this moment, that I really didn't have growing up as much as he's having it now, the ironics of life. Anyway, Luis Salgado, he, him, his, and I am original cast member from In the Heights. Recently, I did with Eric On Your Feet on Broadway. They're a choreographer. I've been blessed to be learning from really incredible, wonderful artists that I admire and trying to apply it as best as I can. And I actually, more than anything, the thing that I want to brag about, it's my nonprofit organization, Revolución Latina. Mostly because you said, go ahead, brag about things. And the first thing that came to my mind is that I had a meeting today with this school in Massachusetts that is coming to Revolución Latina for us to bring an awareness of the Latinx experience. And as we were going into this, the issue of representation became so relevant, because we're talking about Latinx students that don't have teachers that look like them. And so the moment that today they were being told about our organization, and they were being told about Eric, and they were being told about Ana Villafañe and many other Latinx artists on the Broadway field, they were, wait, what? Really? That there are that many Latinx artists on a Broadway field that I can follow this path? So the fact that we're in 2020 still in a place where people don't know that there are so many of us representing and giving the space really makes me really proud to A, share this panel with all of you guys, and B, being in the mission of really enlightening the amount of power and potential that our community has. So sorry for the long introduction.
No. I think it's really, it's really important, that this is not, the statistics out there teach us that it's not a moment to be humble. I'm sorry, when Latinx artists only represent 6% of the entertainment industry, we're not going to be humble. I'm sorry. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to empower the next generation to step up to the plate and say, hey, there's room for you. There's 94% of room for you, in fact, to come to the plate. I'm Eric Ulloa. I'm your host tonight and your moderator and whatever they're calling me. And I'm going to facilitate this great conversation. I know Luis, so I was on Broadway with him in On Your Feet, the musical. That was my Broadway debut. I'm a playwright. I wrote the play 26 Pebbles and the musical Passing Through. And recently I was the writer of the Viva Broadway special on Playbill. And that's Luis and I actually worked together on that. And it was just magic. It was literally, I still am like in the afterglow of that magical night for our community. But today we are here to talk about Biden-Harris and the future ahead. Now, what I want to first go to is that let's go. We're going to spend very little time on the current administration because they've had more than enough time. In fact, I want to see their time end in about 3 weeks. So has there been, I want to go one by one. Has there been an action taken by this current administration that has personally affected you or people you know or your community in a way that you want to talk about? Let's start. I'll start with the Ayala.
Well, I don't know. I feel like, Luis, we probably are going to hover around this topic. But yes, the biggest one that I can think of off the top of my head is Hurricane Maria and what was happening during that time 3 years ago, which is probably personally the worst time in my life. My grandmom lives there. My mom lives there. My stepfather. I have a lot of family on the island. I'm from a town called Rincon, which is the west side. And I just remember the horror of like not having any communication for like 9 or 10 days, and then wondering what was going to happen once if I heard what was going. Yeah, like, were they alive? And then to finally hear from my mom and to realize that they were in dire need of resources and supplies and food and water. And the thing that I remember the most about the time was how I activated, because I was like, I need to do something. And I started a fundraiser. And I mentioned that only to say that when I asked my mom, I said, where's FEMA? And she was like, no, nobody has come. She's like, we are literally all the, neighbors are the ones that are cleaning up the roads and checking on each other. And I'm not even joking. I and my cousin, we got to Rincon before FEMA got to Rincon. And I just remember too, feeling like when he lifted this administration lifted the Jones Act, I was here. I was in a taxi cab, and I just remember crying, just because I just wanted the United States to take some decisive action to help the people who were in clear. It was like a humanitarian crisis there, and it was really painful. And at the same time, it's like you didn't even have time to really deal with what the administration was not doing, because we were literally trying to keep our families alive and healthy and well and with water, and you know what I mean? That to me was probably one of the most unforgivable things that this administration has done. And there have been many, but that one really kind of, sticks to mind.
Luis, why don't you jump onto that too?
No, definitely. I was in Holland at the time, actually directing for Jerry On Your Feet when Maria happened, and Marco Santana, a fellow Boricua choreographer who was there representing Sergio, and I were both stuck, not knowing what was going on. And next, it's that the government that it's leading our country, it's throwing paper towel at our people, right? And so the beautiful thing about Kamala Harris and Biden is that immediately you see hope. I think this is the first thing I want to say, that I can look at Maria and I can look at everything that I went through with Maria and what Revolución Latina had to do. But right off the bat, like Kamala Harris, one of the quotes I have here for myself, it's like, the art gives people an outlet to view the world differently. And so what we did with Revolución Latina is that we were able to come into Puerto Rico and not trust that our funds were going to be delegated. We activated the artists locally. We were able to go to every little town that we could and activate artists like El Trotamundo, like Chicle, like No Había Luz, and give them directly the funds. Because the thing that happens is that the artists, just like in the chorus line lines, were the first ones to show up and the last ones to be considered, right? And so all of these artists went town by town. We gave water, we gave food, right? We brought hope. And the administration, the current administration, was the antithesis of hope. Oh, you guys are fine. Let me throw at you paper towel, right? So when I look at the future administration, when I look at the hope of Biden, taking on this election, I'm looking at someone that's actually going to look out for me, that's going to look out for my people, for my towns, for those artists. When this quote comes back to me, the arts give people an outlet to view the world differently. We're talking about combating hate crimes, right? And gun violence, and being acceptance of who we are as human beings, regardless of our race, our color, our sexual preferences. And that is the thing that I have the most hope for this upcoming presidency, I hope to say.
Yes. Stephanie.
I think the thing that has affected me personally the most is I think something that probably you all have experienced too, which is like this sort of immediate and then built upon xenophobia and racism that just doesn't really exist in the way that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris talk about their policies and talk about the nation and talk about American people, and in particular talk about immigrants. And that the respect that they have, for example, the respect that they have for Puerto Rico as an island, but as a people, and the policies that they want to put in place to, not only like fix the damage that's been done, but like restructure the infrastructure of the island so that it can succeed in these incredible ways that it deserves to succeed, because like it's part of the United States. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that's the thing that struck me so much when those that horrible tragedy of the hurricanes were happening. It was like, that problem's over there. And part of the reason that problem was over there was because of the color of the skin of the people that live on that island.
Yeah, we don't belong.
And that was set in place from the beginning of this administration. Was we all heard the language of when Mexico sends its people, right?
Right, and they don't send their best people. Right. Yeah.
We all heard that language, and we heard it repeated over and over, right? And that was the beginning of the seed 3.5 years ago, was the beginnings of those seeds. And like, to me, that's a thing that has had, it's like a pebble in the lake, right? Like the ripple effect of that language from the highest office in the United States has affected all of us, because like, when you talk about, what did you say earlier? We're 6% of the artists in the arts, but we're like 18% of the population. Latinos and Hispanics are something like 18.1 of the population. So like, I think that's the thing that has affected all of us, probably, like, in small ways and big, is like, I mean, the way that we are seen by our fellow Americans and by our fellow citizens of the world. It's like, it's just the Biden administration. It's like night and day, it's like,
it's like a breath of fresh air.
It's like the respect that we all deserve as human beings. It's so incredible. I'm just so excited to vote for them. Like, I can't wait.
one of the very first purchases I made when the election happened right away, because we started off, I remember, with the anti-Mexican language, and then the Muslim ban that happened right away. And one of the first things I bought was literally this shirt. We know with the United, yeah, because I was like, I wanted to remind the world as I walked around, like, this is who we are. This is why we are, and and it's very, it's very personal to me in a way, because I'm Cubano. I'm from Miami. My parents came here from Cuba. My mom was on one of the last Red Cross flights when Castro took over, because her family worked with Batista, and so they had to go. It was time. It was time to flee. And then my father's father thought that Castro wouldn't last long. He's like, this guy's not going to last long. There's no way. Like, people they're gonna get sick of this. And sure enough, that they were wrong. And so they then fled. I think I forget how many years later, but my father was in his teens. But with this current administration, it's always crazy to me to think that, like, my fellow Cubanos in Miami, so many of them have unfortunately latched themselves onto the train of this president. And I always want to sit there and remind him and go, do you not hear the language? It is literally pop a beard on there and throw some a military garb, and you're listening to Fidel Castro again. You're listening to the idea of, like, this isolationist thing. Like, Castro's message was Cuba for Cuba. Cuba only takes care of Cuba. That's the whole thing. And the whole, like, America first. We only take care of ourselves. I go, it's this isolationist thing that doesn't work, because we are a global community. We are a global community. We are that. And just, and for me, it's just the idea of, like, as you all we talked about earlier, when you screw with my people, you screw with me. I don't care if you're Mexican, Puerto Rican, Dominican. You are my people. You are mi gente. And it's not. So when you talk about Mexicans, when you put little kids in cages, you're putting my nieces and nephews in cages.
But sorry for interrupting you, Eric. But everything that I'm hearing is un disco rayado, right? It's this recording that it keeps skipping back to the same thing. It's the same issue in different shapes and forms every time, right? So the same idea of paper towel is the idea of segregation that's happening in our country, of unacceptance from every angle possible, right? Like, through this pandemic, how many things have we seen that have not been addressed? Meanwhile, let's just talk about, female representation. Kamala Harris comes into the debate, and she's very eloquent, she's very smart, she's very respectful, and she honors her femininity and her presence as a human being and as a woman by saying, please respect me, listen to me. That's in a nutshell the example of the kind of, like, layers that are being built or that are being broken. And so when you talk about the Mexican representation and the whole speech from which, listen, it inspires so much art that I've created as choreographer and directing, because those words have been ingrained in me. But again, the hope is that Biden and Kamala are bringing another rhetoric, are bringing another perspective, which is to unite and celebrate and empower. If you just look at Biden's campaign right now, it's so much about us. It's so much about the Latinos, and everybody that has unfortunately had to immigrate to Florida because of this pandemic, all of a sudden becomes really strong voices for what could be the change of the United States.
Now,
there's so many parts of his agenda, and, like, there's a Latino agenda, there's an immigration agenda, there's a plan for Puerto Rico. There's so he's so invested in us and the future of the United States and our part of that future. It's really exciting to think that, like, there's somebody in that position, like, that could be in that position, that we're going to put in that position.
He can really sing Despacito.
I mean,
sorry.
I love him so much.
No, he tried. Stephanie, you gave me a really good segue there. So I want to do this here, because let the current administration, we're going to get rid of them soon. So let's talk about the future. I'm going to read the Biden-Harris agenda for the Latinx community. And just when something latches onto you, I already have one because I read it ahead of time. That latched onto me. I want you all to hold on to something that really strikes you, and we're going to go around, and I want you to tell me why it strikes you, why you're excited for it, or maybe how you've been affected by the opposite of it, in some way, and why. So let's go through these points. A Biden-Harris agenda for the Latinx community. They're going to expand access to quality, affordable healthcare. They're going to reform our immigration system, reduce incarceration and make our communities safer, invest in Latinos' economic mobility, make far-reaching investments in ending health disparities by race, expand access to high-quality education and tackle racial inequity in our education system, combat hate crimes and gun violence, secure our values as a nation of immigrants. In recognition of the unique contribution of the Latinx community to American history over the past 500 years, Biden will work to establish a Smithsonian National American Latino Museum.
Hey.
Really cool. Yeah. And in the Biden-Harris administration, political appointees, including the president's cabinet, will look like the country they serve and ensure that our federal workforce is representative of the demographics in what? Our country built by immigrants.
We're like,
come on.
I mean, how much time do you have, you know?
Like I just got, I'm sweating from like just reading this.
It's amazing. There's so many good things.
Yeah.
So Stephanie, let's start with you again. And what's one that really just like went right to your heart?
I mean, healthcare for me is a big one, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's not hard to Google the statistics about particularly Black women, but Latinx women as well, and women that are Latinx and Black. It's like for example, their treatment during pregnancy and birth and stuff like that. It's like the way that the system is structured right now isn't protecting these women who are going through this like experience of childbirth, and sometimes so much so that they can end up dying during that process, during that experience, right? So like healthcare to me is a big one. Also because like when I was growing up, my family couldn't always afford healthcare. You know, it was like sometimes it was like, you know, not to like make a dumb joke, but like just hold it together, you know, because like don't bleed all over the place, because like just hold it, tape it together so that you don't need stitches or like, you know, like you know, like it was like, that's so unfair to think that that our fellow human beings don't have access to just basic care for themselves and their families, you know, that people, for example, avoid. My dad has had 4 heart attacks over the course of his life. You know how many of those he knew he actually had? 1, the last one, because when he went to the hospital, when he finally went to the hospital, because they avoided going to the hospital because it was too expensive, and he had this surgery and like all this stuff happened, they were like, oh, there's scarring on your heart. You only have 1 valve that works. You've had 4 heart attacks in your lifetime. He thought it was stress, and it probably was, but like, those are the things to me that's like, my dad should have been able to just say like, I don't feel well, let's go to the hospital.
Well, we can't call ourselves the greatest nation on earth if we can't even have our citizens be able to go to the hospital without. I've seen the same thing. I saw a kid with a child, and the child was coughing the cough of like an 80-year-old smoker for life. He had a very deep sickness, this kid, and I watched the man. It broke my heart. He called his wife and said, they won't take what we have. I don't know what to do. She goes, go to the hospital. He goes, we can't go to the hospital. I told you that. And he's on the phone with her, and the kid's coughing up, like you said, like your father, like we cannot call ourselves the greatest nation on earth if we don't take care of our citizens. Yeah, it is not. It is a human right to go to the freaking hospital and get treated and not worry about the repercussions of financial crap.
Yeah, you know? And it can be if we all utilize our voices as citizens to vote for the people that will enact these policies, and not just on a federal level, but on a local level.
Yes, exactly. Ayadele.
I love that. I agree with you wholeheartedly. That has been my experience. That has been the experience of my family. And it's like we need somebody to normalize the fact that it is our right to be taken, to have healthcare, to be taken care of if we need it. We're not talking about abusing the system. I mean, but I feel like, that was my thing. I mean, I had the most consistent healthcare since Obamacare. Because before there were years that I was not covered at all. And I was just, luckily a very, pretty healthy person. But, and the same thing with my family, my parents, my mom, wouldn't, go. She didn't, it just wasn't something that she felt like she could afford. And then too, like now she's older, so she has access to Medicare. She goes and like, I feel like she has things that she feels are problematic, and I almost feel like sometimes they don't really take her seriously, and they just kind of brush things off, or like, oh no, that's nothing. I'm like, how could that be? Are you making it up? Like, no, it doesn't seem like it. But I believe that the access to healthcare is a big one. It's for sure.
And a big thing with I want to throw in, like, for our industry, we're all performers in a way, like our industry, like, now because of the pandemic and the fact that I know as far as like Actors Equity goes, the funds are depleted for the insurance, and so now the weeks have gone. You all get that email, that scary email. The weeks have gone so high that there's about to be a majority of actors that are going to be walking around without healthcare because there are not enough weeks. There are not, to earn, you have, I think I did the math, to get a year coverage, you have to work between 6 and 7 months consecutively. Tell me an actor that always has that consistent work.
Right.
But that's the thing. We're sorry for interrupting, but we're in the middle of chaos in many ways. And not only the United States, but the world, right? Because politically it's happening in the United States and other parts, but the pandemic is the issue that how long can we really withstand living without certain realities in living values and economy, right? And so I really want to make sure that we are for somebody that's going to help restore that, somebody that can go into international conversations, right? And really restore relationships that have been broken by bullyish attitudes. And I think when you look at the humanity in Kamala Harris and in Biden, you see people that can actually embrace other humans and can listen and can have a conversation, not just impose a way of thinking, right? Part of what's really happening is this old school idea of divide and conquer. And we continue to allow ourselves to be divided by the current government. While here's an option. Here's a new option. Biden and Kamala Harris can go on and restore communication, restore unity, restore values, right? And I think when you ask me from these points, I if I may say three, I want to say the first one is educational system, right? I have a 6-year-old child. I love him, and he's growing bilingual, and we live in New York, but we have the best of both worlds because we can come here and have todo el sazón boricua y el sofrito posible. And I want him to grow up with self-acceptance. I want him to grow up with the validation that he is as American as they come, and as boricua as they come, right? And I don't feel that in the current administration he can have that freedom. So through education, through values in our educational system that the Biden campaign will incorporate, he will have an option to restore, regain, revalue, right, where he comes from. Because the rhetoric won't be that Mexicans are this or Mexicans are that, and by Mexican, any Latino that comes with it. The second point I want to make, it's the plan for immigration, right? The idea that I want to bring two examples. One, the incredible Jaime Lozano. Eric, you and I just had the opportunity of working with Jaime. Years ago, I was working towards helping Jaime get his papers. And unfortunately, he was scammed in many different ways. And the system that we have currently wasn't helping him to be able to overcome the scamming that he went through. So he had to go back. But you and I know that the art that he just showcased, the voice of a Latin America voice in the United States that he has, even with his album now, like Songs by an Immigrant, what is that in representation and in empowerment of an entire Latino community? We in the United States, we should be grateful of having someone like Jaime be here with us, right? And I think that Biden's mentality is to celebrate and honor that potential, that his son, having been born in the United States, has the right to be an American citizen right now and can be celebrated as such. And the other one that I want to bring out is Sergio Trujillo. Right, a man who went from Colombia to Canada, from Canada to the United States, and holds a Tony Award not too long ago, and tells his immigrant story and becomes the American dream for so many people. A perfect example just like Emilio and Gloria Stefan have been. What are we going to do if we don't give those options, if we don't provide those opportunities of being embraced within the United States of America? And that's another reason why what I'm so grateful for Biden and Kamala Harris packaged together, especially Kamala brings so much of that mentality into her politics, right?
Yeah.
So the last to finish is gun violence. You know, like I want to be sure also that my son is protected. And the current divide and conquer mentality, it's very scary to think that all these policies for gun control are out of control. And I don't know that in the moment that black and white or whatever colors you need to name don't speak to each other well, that we won't be protected for being whatever is not accepted. I don't know if I'm making sense anymore.
No, you totally are. You know, I want to touch on two things you said, and also, and your last point's actually my point. You know, so the first thing, you know, we talked about education. I think that's very important because we forget that with quality education, we have a system still in this country, and I know that but the Biden-Harris plan is about fairness in education and creating the exact same conditions for all students. Like I remember very clearly, the poor neighborhoods, and when we see it here in New York, some of the poor neighborhoods, you know, there's a high percentage of Latino families there, and those kids get the second-rate books. They use this. They don't get the tablets. They don't get the, you know, the other kids get, and that to me is complete nonsense. I mean, actually, complete bullshit is what it is, because every student should have access to the same education in this country, and where you live should not determine what you get. And I know with Biden-Harris, you know, their policies are about creating inequality among the education system, so we're all getting quality education. You mentioned the immigration plan. I think that you're totally right. The idea that, like, I always think of the fact that, what if my parents came at a time where we were the most dangerous country on earth, or America, and my mom came during what was then about the, you know, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Like we were, you know, working with Russia, Cubans, and we were terribly dangerous. We were the terrorists, you know, of that time. And America still said, "Come over. You have a home here." And what if they didn't? You know, I would not be here. I would not be making the art like you said I'm making here in this country because of that. So mine is gun violence, because gun violence is very personal to me. I have an experience. I went out to Newtown, Connecticut after the Sandy Hook school shootings. And at the time, just wanted to, I'd had it, and I needed to go listen or something, or be a part of the community in some way. It was 6 months after it happened. And I took some questions with me to see if people would talk about what had happened there. And it ended up being this play called 26 Pebbles, and about a community in the aftershock of gun violence and what happens to a community. You know, since then, and one of them, Luis, was there for this. One of them, Tony Award night of On Your Feet, when we had Tony Awards that morning, the Pulse shooting happened. I went to school in Orlando as a gay Latino. You know, when I was in Orlando in school, the gay community, the clubs were my sanctuary. It's where I learned who I was, who the, you know, the older lesbians and gay men at the bars and everything that I would just talk to and learn experience and life from them, because we don't have that in books. We don't learn about our history in books. We learn it from our peers, you know, in the LGBTQ community. And to sit there and have the duality, and knowing that I had, you know, Pulse Open my senior year, and knowing that I was about to go perform the Tony Awards, but I could find out any minute that somebody that changed my life is laying dead in a club, was just too much. Cut 2 years later, Parkland. It's 15 minutes from the high school I went to. 15 minutes. And I pulled up these statistics because I want people to know gun violence disproportionately affects Latinos. Between 1999 and 2015, 54,000 Latinx people were killed by gun violence, died by gun violence. 35,553 were homicides, and 15,593 were suicides. And that brings me to the plan. You know, as we know with the Obama administration, and that's how I know what I've known. Biden has been clear about what he feels about gun violence and gun plans for responsible gun control. You can have the Second Amendment and be responsible about it, and have 97% of Americans want universal background checks. You know, we are a democracy. How the hell are our representatives not listening to 97% of Americans? You know, and it's something that I just
money.
Exactly. Money. And I will not accept that. And I know that with what I want voters to know is that you have to. I tell them, I go, you have to vote blue all the way. You have to vote Biden. Boom, 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 blue, 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 blue,
All the
blue,
way
blue.
down.
I'm wearing it for a reason. Blue wave, because
Yeah.
because I'll tell you right now, we saw with Obama that if you could have a president that pushes for gun reform and for logical gun reform, common sense gun reform, and if you don't have the Senate and the House there with them, nothing happens. So we need to have a Senate, a House, a president that will vote for common sense gun legislation. You better believe that if Biden and Harris become our president and vice president, I'm going to hold their ass to it. In the very beginning, I want that right away. I'm not like I'm at a point there. I'm not screwing around. Like, you got to get this done because, like, you're right. Your son, has to go to school. My niece and my nephews, and I have a niece and nephew on the way. So many children coming in. But they have to go to school. And Theo Eric sits at home and gets nervous about them daily. And I don't. My sister's a teacher. My mother is a teacher. It's very personal, and I don't accept.
But it has to be personal.
It has to be. Yes.
It has to be personal. I mean, it's our future. Like, the whole thing in Puerto Rico, it's a mess right now. Like, what is Wanda going out and doing supporting Trump? Wanda, like, when you look at just that idea, politically speaking, you're just seeing the corruption and the lies that go and go and go. Puerto Rico is no different, unfortunately, right? Like, we just dethroned our governor. And Wanda has basically, she wasn't elected. It was somebody that literally came by politics and who was in government when that politic was pushed. Yeah. Right. And so that's not democracy. I'm sorry. That is not democracy right there. And there have been a lot of exploitation and abuses to our rights. And we are being lied to it daily. And I don't want to be lied to. I want people that will come in and will be human and will be listening and will be having a dialogue. And that when Eric comes out and speaks about his needs for the gay community, right, that he will be heard. When I come out and I talk about my needs for my fellow, Latin America artists that I support and I bring to New York to have an artistic experience and that have so much to offer to the exchange in our country, that they will be respected. I want people that will do that. And right now, unfortunately, we don't have it. And that's why I'm looking forward to this team.
Let's talk about Ayadele and Luis. Let's talk about statehood. Because I know it's something that the Biden-Harris talked about. How we can go, Ayadele, I'll let you start. How do you feel about statehood?
Golly, this question. Well, before I answer that, I do want to just acknowledge what we said before about restoring communication. Like, that's one of the things you're looking forward to in this new administration. And what I love about that is just in order to restore communication, you have to have the ability to communicate and to listen. And last night's the town halls, like, it was like such an obvious, like, I was flipping back and forth, and I would go to the NBC one and I was like this because I just felt like I was being assaulted. And then he would change to Biden, and it was just like calm and thoughts and clear plans. And anyway, that's refreshing.
And Savannah Guthrie said it perfect. She said, "You're not somebody's crazy uncle. You're the president." Yeah, I thought that was
right. She held it down.
Yeah, she did.
Shout out to Savannah Guthrie. Statehood. Oh, don't hold me to this. But honestly, I just feel like Puerto Rico has been so neglected and mistreated for so long under the guidance of the United States. And I just feel like, sometimes I feel like, we should keep our options open. Sometimes I feel like that, like we should shop around. But, if there was such a way to do that, that made sense. I mean, obviously it would be great to have all of the benefits that come with being, a state and, having a voice there, being able to vote for the president and so on and so forth. But man, that's really tough. I just feel so, I don't want to say bad, but my heart breaks for my people in Puerto Rico because I just feel like we've been mistreated, politically for so long. I mean, taxes, I mean, what is this last tax where the people are going to be paying this debt for in taxes for the next 40 something years? It's criminal and it's abusive. I don't know. I honestly, I don't know that I can really super answer that, but I don't know. Luis, what do you think?
So statehood, I mean, it's a very crazy conversation. I think since the moment that I left Puerto Rico to follow my dreams in New York City, I've been thinking about this, and I'm going to summarize it very, very easily. I want it to be something. I want Puerto Rico to be something. And that's something at the end of the day, it's either to be a state or to be independent. But this Estado Libre Asociado doesn't serve us anymore. And basically Puerto Rico was handed out with all these tax exemptions. And, of course, a lot of work came in, but we also have to recognize that Puerto Rico became the number one labor hen in the Caribbean. And so these pharmacies that were coming here were utilizing the Puerto Rican hen, but then those products were being resold to us at 3 times the price when we were building it. It's not like it's benefiting us, right? This Commonwealth thing. It's benefiting somebody else. So we're not being treated all the time as equals or as part of. We're being at times, I'm sorry, enslaved through not only the last, government, but like through many, many years. I think cuando el Estado Libre Asociado began, it was a great idea. It was fantastic, especially when you look at the debate with where the situation with Cuba was, right? Puerto Rico all of a sudden had the best of both worlds. We can have our own representation and, wave our flags in the Olympics and, but also we are part of the United States. So that was great. But as you progress without evolving the reality of that status, lo que pasa, what happens is it's a little bit of a mantengo, right? And so we really lose the characteristics of who we are politically as Puerto Ricans. But Puerto Rico, when you look at it, we're all around the world, culturally, artistically, intellectually. You will find a Puerto Rican in any field. And so we are proud Americans representing that, and we are proud Puerto Ricans. So I don't mind being a state and taking my pride as a Puerto Rican and representing the United States as well. I also don't mind being independent. I just don't want to continue to be a Commonwealth.
Yeah,
and I think stepping outside of it, like I comment on this, not being Puerto Rican, but just looking at what's offered. I just keep thinking, you have representation in Congress. You have you get to vote for the president that runs the country. And to me right now, what Puerto Rico is right now to me is what our country had a revolutionary war to not have, which is taxation without representation. You're being taxed like crazy, but you have absolutely no say. You have no say.
Well, that's not exactly, yes, you are absolutely right, but also we do, but only we travel a few miles up to Florida. Like the moment that I step on Florida, I can actually vote for the president. But if I'm in the island of Puerto Rico, which everybody loves to come and enjoy, I cannot. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
What is, switch topics now. So Stephanie, I want to go to you. What is something that the Biden-Harris administration, have they said enough with towards the Latinx communities? Is there something more you think they could be saying, and that maybe that you hope that during an administration they will say?
I mean, I really hope that one of the things that becomes a focus is this clear, delineated path to citizenship for people that are here undocumented, for people that are trying to come to the U.S. for some kind of form of asylum. I am like really looking forward to a clear, delineated path to citizenship for those that want it. I'm especially like thinking about people that have been in the U.S. for years and years and lived here for so long and have been contributing members of American society and have been, whether or not they have a Social Security number, have sometimes been paying taxes, but always like paying taxes just on like buying things to live in the United States, right? Like I'm thinking about the people that are here that are part of the infrastructure of the U.S. and like their path to citizenship, because when I was a kid, when my father came to the U.S., he spent, I think it was 11 or 12 years working toward getting his citizenship. And at the time, it was much easier for his kids, myself and my sister, to get our citizenship. But I think about it all the time because like, if my parents came to the U.S. now, I don't know what the path would be. There's no clear path. It's a mess, and it's that way on purpose. because of xenophobia and because of racism. And it's like, especially as an artist, I think about like at least the stuff that I've seen my fellow artists add to the world and the stuff that I've been lucky enough to add to the world. And the stuff specifically that I've added to the world in my experience as an American immigrant, as an immigrant who is also an American citizen. I think I have a really specific point of view, and I've lived a very specific life. And in that specificity, it becomes universal, right? Like that's what we all love about art so much is like in its specificity, it can become so universal because it's all these themes that are just human. And I wouldn't have been able to come here and make the art that I've made and forge the path that I've forged as an artist if my parents were trying to come now, you know, like if my family was coming now, if I was 18 now, like, I mean, I'd also like to see like, and Biden Harris has been very clear about like reversing what the current administration has done to, for example, DACA kids and like dreamers and stuff, you know, it's like this current administration put up a bajillion roadblocks, you know, and those roadblocks will be taken down one by one once our president is Joe Biden. Yeah.
I mean, I remember I just worked about DACA. I just worked with a kid, and he was 22. He was just getting out of college, 23, and we were going to like a cast party. And I was there, and I was like, "Oh, I'll make you a drink." I'm like, he's like, "Oh, I have to drive home." I go, "You can have a drink, and then you know you'll be fine. You have a drink. You're allowed to drink, you know." Mm-hmm. And he said, "No, man, I can't." He goes, "Because if I have a drink and I drive home," he goes, "if I get pulled over and they even try to play a breathalyzer on me," he goes, "Guess what? I get sent back to Mexico." Mm-hmm. And it broke my heart that a 23-year-old, and this kid is like just one of the kindest people ever, that he has to live daily with the shadow over him that someone's watching, and that he could be sent back to a country that he has never known. He's never known, you know? So I want to wrap up because I want everybody here is probably so excited from hearing from us, and they're getting ready to make their voting plan, and they are excited about getting out there and early voting. They're going to early vote, right? Everybody, we're going to early vote.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So I want to go around. Stephanie, we'll start with you, then Luis and Ayodele. Give everybody your final pitch for why they should be out there and voting for a Biden-Harris administration.
He's looking out for you. She's looking out for you. They have your best interests at heart. And they've seen what divisiveness has done to this country so quickly over the last 3.5 years. It's been so rapid. And in the same way that destruction is rapid, I think growth and goodness and kindness and humanity can also be rapid growth. So your vote all the way down the ballot for blue, you know, like your vote really will affect change, because the problem has been that we all got kind of apathetic about it. We're like, people are taking care of it. It's all good. Somebody's handling it. And the reality is like, we have to handle it. And this is our chance. You can handle it. And all you have to do is like, get yourself together and vote. That's it.
Luis.
I think the first thing I'm going to say is that our voice matter. You know, that we're in the middle of a time where representation, it's extremely important. And I need to go out and vote. I need my voice to be counted. And I think we all need our voice to be counted. And I think not only for us, right? We can not only we should think about our families, right? But we should also think about the neighbor's family who probably don't have milk or the money to buy milk right now. We're in the middle of a very hard reality. And we need a government that is about supporting us together, evolving, together growing, together embracing. And I really believe that Biden and Kamala Harris are bringing that to us, are bringing an opportunity to be heard again, are bringing an opportunity to be taken into consideration, to be part of the table. And I don't feel in the current government that I am a part of the table. And that's why I invite everybody to go out and vote.
I love that. I echo all of that. And I also do want to say that, yes, our voices matter. And I believe wholeheartedly that Biden and Kamala Harris are listening. And I know that so many of us get discouraged because we feel like, oh, it's all the same. But the truth is that if, while you have breath in your body and while you are able to put your energy and your voice and your vote to something, then err on the side of goodness. Like just try, take a shot if you want to, but err on the side of people who really, are listening and will hold their feet to the fire, but we have to get in there and we have to make our voice count.
And I if I may, and I'm sorry for jumping in too, but I also want leaders that respect science. I also want leaders that respect education. I also want leaders that don't hide that a pandemic is coming to us, so that we can also have the option to get ready. And
transparency.
And right now we don't have that. And therefore Biden and Kamala Harris matter.
Yeah.
It's almost like we need people to tell the truth most of the time. It's almost like that would be beneficial for everyone. It's so crazy.
Know.
It's so
but
crazy.
Something else though, this is like on a really basic human, like, New York, read your character kind of thing. Like you can look like, I look at almost everybody in this administration, the cabinet, the entire thing from the president down. And it's just like, they're untrustworthy, not nice people. So on a, just even on a superficial level, like you can just tell someone's character,
I'm so sorry for interrupting you, but the problem with that is that evil is very tempting. And that we cannot just have the trust that we cannot show up to vote, because people, even within the Latinx community, have been tempted by those lies. And so we need to come back, and we need to again be present and show up and vote and represent and say, listen, our lives matter, right? Our voice matter, our skin colors matter, our accent matters. And if we don't do that, this is really, please come out, vote. I cannot say it enough. I apologize for saying it like this, but come out and vote.
You're 100% right. This is something that goes for the full audience tonight watching, but for our Latinx audiences, like I know as a Latino, I was raised with two things deep in me, and it's corazón y pasión, and that's heart and passion. And what we've been missing in this country for the last almost 4 years is corazón y pasión. And I know very well that a Biden-Harris administration brings corazón y pasión, and our country needs a heartbeat again. Our country needs a solid core, a solid heart beating, knowing that we are all the same. All of you, I love leaving these things so inspired with mi gente and just talking these amazing conversations. We could go on forever, but thank you all for being here. Thank you all for being glorious, gorgeous representatives of our community.
Thank you.
I am honored. Guys, go out and vote. Vote. The last word is vote.
Vote.